Dove hunting is one of my favorite things about September, and that is saying something because both bow season and football season start in September too. Dove hunting is a social kind of hunting where family and friends can get together, sit along field edges and fence rows, waste a bunch of shells, and fight over who it was that actually shot that bird. And we can also make fun of the person who seems to never hit anything, and shaming does work. It never seems to be the same person the next year. But it seems a lot of people take dove hunting for granted. They see these doves flying all over their neighborhoods and almost getting hit by cars because they won't get out of the way until the last second. And they think a bird this dumb has to be stupidly easy to hunt. Well, they would be mistaken. I can't tell you how many times I've taken somebody dove hunting for their first time and they can't believe how fast they fly and how hard it can be sometimes to just get up in a good spot to hunt them. Well, if you're one of those hunters who has a hard time finding them, getting them to fly in close enough for a shot, and then let alone hitting them, you're in luck, because in this video we're going to go over 3 tips to help you shoot more doves this season. But before we go over these tips, do me a favor, and if this is your first time on my channel, hit that subscribe button and make sure you click that bell icon so you can be notified every time I upload a video. And the first dove hunting tip is to make sure that you are well hidden. Just because doves have tiny little brains doesn't mean that they can't see you. Now that doesn't mean that you need to deck yourself out in full head to toe 3D camo, but you also don't want to be the guy that shows up out there in blue jeans and a bright colored t-shirt. Now you don't absolutely have to wear camo. I do recommend it, but there are a lot of times that you can just show up in, some darker colors, some browns and tans, even the darker greens will work too. Most of the time I'll wear brown pants and a camo t-shirt. And like I said, you don't have to wear camo, but you really want to avoid wearing white or any other bright colors. And if you feel like it, you can wear gloves and a mask too. You definitely can't be too hidden. And speaking of being well hidden, you need to take a step back from that field edge and get into some cover. I can't tell you how many times I show up to some conservation ground and you'll go to the dove fields where they've got some cut corn or sunflowers or something like that, and there's a lot of guys just sitting there right in the edge, out in the open, sticking out like a sore thumb. Take a few steps back off that field edge and get into that taller vegetation. Blend into your surroundings, and not only will you get more doves coming into your setups, but they'll fly in closer for those easier shots. And the second dove hunting tip is to pick your target and follow through it. If you get set up in a good spot where you've got multiple doves or multiple groups of doves flying into your setups, it can get a newer hunter kind of flustered. With so many targets flying around, you could end up missing your best opportunity because your eyes are trying to pick out the best target, and then you end up bouncing around like you're watching a tennis match. Just pick a bird and aim at it. Don't worry about how many are in the group or the possibility of a double, because if you can't hit that first bird, you're not going to shoot the second bird. Just pick that first bird, lead it however much you need to, and follow through that shot. How much you lead that bird is something that you kind of just have to get a feel for. There's some variables to it. It's, what kind of shots you're using, how fast that bird's flying, and how far away it is. It's just something that you kind of have to get used to depending on your setup. Now there is kind of a rule of thumb. It's supposedly around 6 foot is the general distance you want to lead. But again, it's just kind of something you have to work out with your setup. And when I say that you need to follow through your shot, it means that you need to keep that barrel moving through your trigger squeeze. Newer shooters kind of have this bad habit, this tendency to, when they're following, they've got the lead on that bird, and then they'll stop as they pull the trigger, and that makes them usually miss right behind that bird. You have to keep that barrel moving and then shoot so your lead stays consistent. It just takes some time to get used to your setup, learn how to shoot, and then maybe next year you won't be the guy that gets made fun of for missing every shot. And the third dove hunting tip is to put yourself into the corners. I noticed a few years ago that the hunters that were down in the corners of the field edges at the conservation ground I went to were getting all the shot opportunities. They were shooting probably 3 times to every one of my shots. It just seems like all the birds were coming in from that edge, giving them the first crack at them. And I was left for the ones that they missed and were too dumb to just get the hell out of there. And so the next time that I went to that conservation ground, I got there earlier and set up as close to that corner as I could get. Now I didn't get right up in the corner because somebody else was already there, but then I noticed as the hunt went on that I was actually benefiting from being about 20 yards off from that corner because I could see them sooner than that guy in the corner. That guy right in the corner, he kind of cut off half of his vision. I mean, he had the edge, and so he, from about this point over was his field of view. But since I was about 20 yards off, I had more of a 180, not quite 180. And obviously I wasn't shooting straight 180 because that's dangerous and dumb. but at least I could prepare for when those birds were coming in. I didn't have to like last second reaction. So if you find yourself hunting newer conservation ground where they've got dove fields, you haven't been able to scout it, the first place I would go to is the inside corners of these cut fields. Now, like I said, don't get right into that corner. Don't get tucked in there so much that you cut off half your vision. Get about 20 yards or so that you have a wider field of view. So it's 3 dove hunting tips to help you fill more of your tags. Get that daily limit. If you have any more tips you'd like to share, make sure you leave those down in the comments below. Hit that like button if you like this video. Share it if you found it helpful, and make sure that you are subscribed so you can stay informed.